So the backlash to the Britney Spears conservatorship insanity is so freaking loud that Congress, that's right, Congress is now paying attention. Not only that, but the noise is coming from everywhere. And you can see proof of that too, because you not only have certain congressional members speaking out, you have congressional members on both sides of the political divide. They're speaking out and they're saying these quote unquote toxic conservatorships, yeah, there's something inherently wrong here. Now, to me, that says something, too, because these are the same folks that would find a reason to disagree around the proper application of peanut butter and jelly on a sandwich, and yet they're getting together to denounce quote-unquote toxic conservatorships. Yeah, that says something, and what it says is that people, they're getting loud. Now, you and I, we're going to talk about this today, and make no mistake, when the courtrooms fail you, when you see injustice time and again, this is how you arrive at justice. Not because political figures are speaking up. No, because you are, and you're pressuring someone to do something. Interesting, isn't it? How enough of us coming together, actually speaking out and loudly could actually change the world. So hey there to you folks, by the way. I hope your day is excellent. If you would, share this video. Make sure you feed that pesky algorithm, likes and comments. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. If you have, well, make sure you're still subscribed. Thank you. So if you haven't been keeping up with what's going on with Britney Spears, it is absolutely crazy. You had Britney Spears asking for conservatorship to be removed, or at least the co-conservator, her father, to be removed because she says he's abusing the position and her. She talked about being over-medicated with lithium. She talked about being prohibited from having more children after her conservators don't allow her to remove birth control devices, and all of this stuff, it was upheld by a judge. That's right. A judge denied her request to remove her conservator from her estate. Now that's gotten plenty of people talking. And whether or not you like some of the voices out there, you have to admit that when one person can put out two words like Free Britney, you see 455,100 likes on that, almost 55,000 retweets. What that does is it brings awareness to this situation. And when enough people get angry about a situation, when enough people decry it and they start speaking out, well, you see things just like this. This is from thehill.com, by the way. Now, when I'm talking about this, too, I want to make something perfectly clear. I am not talking about politics. What I'm talking about is a bipartisan move by congressional figures to go after toxic conservatorships. And, well, Britney Spears speaking out about this, that inspired it. Again, this is how you get change. See, Spears' description of their situation in notes, which she likened to slavery. I mean, think about that. Think about being put into a situation where this is the only way that you can describe it, has provoked outcry from an array of legislators. And the articles on this, they are fascinating. Why? Because you see people with different political ideologies coming together, but also, as far as the Free Britney movement, well, at one time, this thing, it was dismissed as niche, but now you have people on Capitol Hill, people with wildly different ideologies working together to try to help this cause. When you look at the names that are attached to this, too, you have people from Elizabeth Warren to Ted Cruz. Again, people that would not agree on anything normally. Well, now they're vowing to respond to the Spears case, and they're reviving a push for more oversight and guardianship that began a decade before her first album. So this stuff, I mean, it's been going on for a long time. You haven't had anyone in there that's going to change something. Like I said, this is how you get justice. You push hard. You get so loud about it that folks, they're willing to revive something that has been decades in the making. Now, as far as quotes are concerned, there's some really good ones out there. And when we're going over these, don't pay attention to who the person is that is saying this or their designation. They have the designation for what party they represent. But remember, at the end of the day, they ultimately represent you. And this is what people are saying. Quote, no matter who you are, no matter where you are politically, just hearing about that, the degree of control that's been exerted over her life, it's disturbing. It's offensive to a lot of Americans. And that's right. It is indeed offensive to a lot of Americans and then some, because if this kind of stuff happened to someone like myself or yourself, how many of us would ever be able to fight it? Now, this quote, it's a little bit more direct to the point, but there's something else added in this statement. I want to show you this too. So here's the quote. I think this is freaking ridiculous what is happening to Britney Spears, and it needs to end. Now, if you look at the words that they attach to these folks, again, forgetting the designation, that doesn't matter. You see this word here, lawmaker. These are lawmakers that are speaking out. These are people at the highest positions of prominence speaking out. Again, their quotes, they matter much more than, say, 500 or 600,000 of us that have to pressure them to speak. Now, as far as what the Fed can or cannot do, you'll see words like limited come up, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But like some very powerful, very prominent politicians say, the federal government's role is limited, but limited is not the same thing as non-existent. It turns out that the federal government collects a lot of data about conservatorships, where they're used, when they're used, how long they're used, but they keep all that data secret. This is an area where sunlight or sunshine might help. That is a threat to expose what goes on behind the scenes. Make no mistake. And when you couple things like this with calls for hearings on abusive conservatorship, with renewed calls talking about bipartisan pushes to make this stuff happen, yeah, that scares a lot of these companies. That scares a lot of these conservators. That scares judges and on. That makes them, quote unquote, do the right thing. That's why you see people stepping down, people getting scared, because they know this. It has way too much attention to operate in the dark. Now, as far as what can be done, I found these statements to be fascinating because it lays out kind of a blueprint for what can take place. As far as the Fed is concerned, the Fed, they've known about these problems for a long time. They said this. They've said it multiple times, and they're saying they could have hearings on this. I imagine we will have hearings on it, by the way. They'll have data collection talking about what happens or doesn't happen, like we discussed before, and even legislation that can provide more assistance to the states. Now, this brings up the state portion of this because, as this notes, lawmakers acknowledge that situations like Spears are largely controlled by the states. Well, if you can pressure federal legislatures to actually go in, enact some kind of response, what do you think you can do with state legislatures, with state representatives? Because I can tell you right now, if you can pressure the Fed, you can pressure states. And yeah, like I said many times, this is the blueprint to how you have justice, not just for Spears, but for many people out there. I can tell you, I have observed this stuff through practicing mental health. I practiced it for years as a therapist. You have some good conservators out there, but you have some terrible ones too. There needs to be some oversight. Like I said, this is the way to get justice, but yeah, let me know what you think about it.